And so the bird spread his wings and travelled from the miller's place towards his home, carrying a millstone around his neck. Now the bird has 3 gifts, and these 3 gifts were gifted to him by 3 different tradesmen. The first gift was a golden chain, which can be considered as a materialistic gift. Okay, gold can be considered as something which is valuable, which is materialistic, so it was gifted to him by the goldsmith. The second gift was a pair of red shoes, which was gifted to him by the shoemaker. And the third gift was a millstone, which was gifted by the group of millers. So the bird now is carrying a millstone around his neck, and he is flying towards his father's house. He flew far away to his father's house. In the room, the father, the mother, and Marlene were sitting at the table. So once again, they are all together and they are sitting at the table. So in the olden times, there weren't much places for people to go and sit. They would usually sit close to the table or in the living room, and that was it. They will be having a living room, and most probably the dining table too would be there, and they would be sitting together. So here again, the father, the mother, and Marlene were sitting at the table. The father said, "I feel so contented. I'm so happy." Remember, right from the moment in which he ravenously ate his own son's remains, he felt contented. He felt happy. ആഹാരം വളരെ ആർത്തിയോടുകൂടി സ്വന്തം മകൻ്റെ അവശിഷ്ടങ്ങൾ കഴിച്ച സമയം തൊട്ടിട്ട് he was feeling so happy. So again, the father is feeling so happy, so contented. So he says that I feel so contented, I'm so happy. What do you mean by contented? I feel so delighted, I feel so happy. Not I, said the mother. I feel uneasy, just as if a bad storm were coming. So the mother is feeling uneasy. She is not feeling happy, and she is starting to feel uneasy. So see, there is this concept of guilt. So if you have done something wrong, the guilt will haunt you deep. So it runs deep down. You won't be able to sleep if you have done something wrong. So the guilt is slowly eating the mother out, eating her up. That's why she is feeling uneasy. This might be guilt that is making her feel uneasy. And it can also be a narrative foreshadowing, because again, she feels as if a bad storm is coming. Now, storm is considered to be a symbol of turbulence. In the olden days, whenever there is a storm, or whenever people said that there is going to be a storm, it showed turbulence. So there is going to be a bad weather, and a bad weather is coming, and they can feel it in their bones. Especially the mother can feel it in their bones, in her bones. So it again shows that the mother is feeling a bit uneasy. She might be guilty of what she had done. And again, the bad storm were coming again might indicate narrative foreshadowing. Something bad is going to happen to her. Okay, so this is again an element of narrative foreshadowing. It's a narrative device. We shall discuss it later, because there is a narrative foreshadowing that's coming up. So in that instance, we shall discuss what narrative foreshadowing is. But Marlene just sat and cried and cried. The only person who cries or mourns for the death of the boy is Marlene. And Marlene is sitting there and she cried and cried. That's the only thing that she could do. Then the bird flew up as it seated itself on the roof. And the father said, "Oh, I feel so truly happy. And the sun is shining so beautifully outside. I feel as if I were about to see some old acquaintance again." So the father is feeling so happy, he's feeling so contented, and he feels like he's going to meet an old acquaintance. ഒരു പഴയ പരിചയക്കാരനെ കാണാൻ പോവുകയാണെന്ന് ഫാദറിന് തോന്നുകയാണ്. So he feels like he's going to meet an old acquaintance again. So the father is feeling so happy. Marlene is crying because she's the only person who's mourning the death of her stepbrother. The others does not know. So Marlene is still in grief. She is still grieving, whereas the father is feeling so happy and contented. And he feels that the weather is sunny and everything is beautiful and shiny. And he feels like he's going to meet an old acquaintance again. So this happens, right? Even when you are at your home, if there is a crow crowing or cawing near to your home, your parents might say that vidunnugar aro varan povunu nu parayum. So similarly, you get a hunch that someone is coming. At times, you get a hunch that someone might be coming today. So similarly, the father also feels like he's going to meet an old acquaintance again. Again, that's a narrative foreshadowing. Now, what is narrative foreshadowing? It is an omen, a supernatural phenomenon. So in the olden literatures, especially the Grimm's fairy tale can be considered as quite old, right? So in those literatures, supernatural elements appeared as narrative foreshadowing. For example, in Julius Caesar, for that matter, you have a beggar who comes towards Caesar and he warns him, beware of the Ides of March. So again, that is a narrative foreshadowing of something bad that is going to happen. Similarly, in the story of Oedipus Rex 2, a prophet named Tiresias appears and he too prophesies that something bad is going to happen in Thebes twice. So first there is the prophecy about the Sphinx, and then there is a prophecy about a man killing his father and marrying his mother. So Tiresias gives out these prophecies, and in olden days or in literatures of the yore, this concept of supernatural elements were there, and the supernatural elements would be introduced as a narrative foreshadowing. Something bad is going to happen and someone will portend it or someone will foretell it. So this appears as an omen in many literatures, especially in fairy tales. Now in this work, it might also be a meaningless comment made by someone. So this is a comment which was made by the father and it has got deep meanings. Now it can be considered to be prescient. Now what is the meaning of prescient? Prescient means showing knowledge of an event before it is taking place. So if you know an event is going to take place, and if you have knowledge of an event before it's going to take place, it's like a warning. So narrative foreshadowing too is can appear in the form of an apparently meaningless comment which turns out to be prescient, which means that the comment turns out to be a warning for the future. So again, the father feels like he's going to meet an old acquaintance, and the mother feels like a bad storm is coming, and both can be considered as foretelling or foretelling the future. And what is the future that is in store? Something bad is going to happen to the mother and something good is going to happen to the father. That is, the father is going to meet an old acquaintance. Acquaintance means parijayakaran. So I hope that it was clear. So it is a random detail whose significance is subsequently realized. So narrative foreshadowing can be considered as a random detail. It will be there in realist text too. It will be a small detail, but it would come into significance later. It will come into significance on a later part of the story. You might be familiar with this hunch or feeling because when you see a crime thriller or a crime movie, often this happens. You would come to know that this particular event is going to have some repercussions in the future. You feel like that. That is the same feeling of narrative foreshadowing. I hope that it was clear. Not I, said the woman. I am so afraid that my teeth are chattering and I feel like I have a fire in my veins. So the mother is again feeling as if it is a very bad day and she feels afraid and her teeth are chattering. So this woman was so far depicted as being the epitome of cruelty. She was depicted as a very cruel persona and who does not even think twice before killing her stepson and then framing her own daughter for the same. She was trying to frame her own daughter for the death of her stepson. No mother does that, right? So far she came across as a very strong, cunning woman, but now she is, falling into pieces. She's shattering. Her teeth are chattering. Okay? So I am so afraid that my teeth are chattering. Somewhat like our Lady Macbeth. Even Lady Macbeth, if you have read the tale, you will know that Lady Macbeth feels the guilt of having killed Duncan, the king, and she constantly washes her hands. So that again shows her guilt which was deep inside her. So similar to that, this woman too is feeling uneasy. I'm so afraid that my teeth are chattering. So her teeth were chattering. And I feel like I have fire in my veins. Again, a reference to fire. Now, there is at least 3 references to fire in this particular section, and all the 3 utterances are uttered by this woman, and she feels like her veins are filled with fire. So, again, fire is closely associated with hell, because hell is a place which is always blazing, right? The underworld, the subterranean world, it is always blazing with fire. So she feels fire in her veins. So it's again a sign of guilt. She tore open her bodies even more. So in order to relieve herself, or in order to get some air, she tore open her bodies so that she could get some air. So again, in the olden days, especially during the Victorian period, the women used to wear corsets. Now corsets were not good for women health wise, because it was a very constrained clothing, വളരെ കെട്ടിപ്പൂട്ടിയൊക്കെ വെച്ചിരുന്ന ഒരു ക്ലോത്തിങ് ആയിരുന്നു. And the woman might feel out of breath if they wore corsets now. Then with the mask and all, they might die a sudden death, because the corset was such a constrained kind of a dress. It was so constraining, because they used to hold the corset together using threads and the like. So she tore open her bodies, and she wanted some air. Marlene sat in a corner crying. She held a handkerchief before her eyes and cried until it wet clear through. Poor Marlene, she's the only person who cries. And then again, she was crying, and she was holding a handkerchief in her hands. Remember, she buried her brother's remains using a silk handkerchiefs. Seems like Marlene has a whole lot of a collection of handkerchiefs. So Marlene sat in a corner crying. She held a handkerchief before her eyes and cried until it was wet clear through. So she cried until it was wet all through. Then the bird seated itself on the juniper tree and sang. So the bird seated itself on the top of the juniper tree, and she began to sing. He began to sing. My mother, she killed me. The mother stopped her ears and shut her eyes, not wanting to hear. But there was a roaring in her ears like the fiercest storm, and her eyes burned and flashed like lightning. So at the first hearing itself, she felt like she does not want to hear this. So she shut her eyes and she shut her ears. She does not want to hear this. So still there was a roaring inside her ears. She felt as if she was hearing a storm inside her ears, and her eyes burned and flashed like lightning. All these are symptoms of intense guilt. Okay, so the author is using emphatic language when he is referring to the fierce emotion that she goes through. She feels as if the song of the bird is roaring inside her ears as a fierce storm. So again, it's an exaggeration of emotions, somewhat like an hyperbole. In literature, we say this as hyperbole, because exaggerate പറയാന്ന് പറയില്ലേ, that's what is happening here. That is, there was a roaring in her ears like a fierce storm. Usually when you hear a bird sing, it does not appear as a roaring in your ears, right? ഒരു roaring പോലെ നമുക്ക് ഒരിക്കലും ഫീൽ ചെയ്യില്ല. This language is used in order to show the intensity of the guilt that the woman has. It's an example of hyperbole, exaggeration. Again, her eyes burn like lightning. Again, it's an exaggeration or a hyperbole. യഥാർത്ഥത്തിൽ കണ്ണ് lightning പോലെ burn ചെയ്യോ? ഇല്ല. It's an exaggeration or hyperbole. My father, he ate me. Again, the bird began to sing. Oh, mother, said the man, that is a beautiful bird. He is singing so splendidly, and the sun is shining so warmly, and it smells like pure cinnamon. So the father is feeling like, oh, the sun is shining so warmly, the bird is singing so splendidly, and it smells like cinnamon. Okay, So again, cinnamon is a very good scent for that matter. My father, he ate me. So again, the bird sings. My sister Marlene, again, the third line is, my sister Marlene. Then Marlene laid her head on her knees and cried and cried. But the man said, I'm going out, I must see the bird up close. So I think the people here are only able to hear the melody first. That's why they're so happy, because they are not heeding to the lines. They are just listening to the melodious voice of the bird. But Marlene seems to hear the voice, the lyrics. That's why she laid her head on her knees and cried on hearing my sister Marlene. Oh, don't go, said the woman. I feel as if the whole house were shaking on fire. So the woman feels like the whole house is shaking on fire. Again, fire, the reference to fire is an image, appears here. I have fire in my veins. Then she says that there is a roaring in her ears and a flash like lightning. And then here again she says that she feels as if the whole house is shaking on fire. So somewhat similar to the hell, so to the inferno or hell. So it's again a sign of intense guilt and insecurity. She feels like she is in hell. So these are all images related to fire, to hell. So the suggestion is to inferno or to hell. But the man went out and looked at the bird. Gathered all my bones, tied them in a silken scarf, laid them beneath the juniper tree. Tweet, tweet, what a beautiful bird am I. With this, the bird dropped a golden chain, and it felt right around the man's neck, so exactly around it that it fit beautifully. So the bird suddenly dropped a golden chain on the man's neck. Remember, it had collected the golden chain from the goldsmith. So with this, the bird dropped the golden chain, and it fell right around the man's neck, so exactly around it that it fits so beautifully in his neck. Then the man went in and said, just look what a beautiful bird that is, and what a beautiful golden chain he has given me, and how nice it looks. So in one breath he says that, oh, what a beautiful bird that is, what a beautiful golden chain he has given me, and how nice it looks, just see. But the woman was terrified. She fell down on the floor in the room, and her cap fell off her head. So again, it's a foreshadowing, her cap falling off her head. Remember, earlier the head fell off from the boy's neck, and now a cap fell off from the woman's head. Again, that's a narrative foreshadowing. So the woman felt terrified after hearing this. So she fell down in the floor of the room. So again, as I said, in the olden days, women used to wear the tight corsets, and that would inevitably restrict the airflow to the lungs, and they would faint. And fainting was a common phenomenon in Victorian England, or be it in Victorian England or in olden times in any of those courtly places, or among women belonging to the upper classes. Fainting was a common phenomenon. So again, she fell on the floor of the room, and her cap fell off from her head. Then the bird sang once more, my mother kill me. I wish I were 1,000 fathoms beneath the earth, so I would not have to hear that. So again, this is for the first time that the bird is singing twice without anyone asking her to, or it to sing, not her. So far the bird sang the song in return for some gift, but now the bird is singing it again as a refrain, again twice, because the bird wants everyone to hear, especially the people in his family, to hear the tale. So the woman, the stepmother, feels sad. She says, I wish I were 1,000 fathoms beneath the earth. So she feels like, oh, I wish I was buried beneath the earth. She does not want to listen to this voice. See, normally people would like to go, or would like to be buried deep down in the earth, right? So 1,000 fathoms beneath the earth means again that is a slight reference to hell. Okay, it shows her affinity towards the subterranean world of hell, that is below the earth. It was believed that there is hell, and this woman has an affinity towards hell than towards heaven. That's why she feels like she must be buried 1,000 fathoms beneath the earth. She feels like she wish to go 1,000 fathoms beneath the earth. Very peculiar ആണ് ഈ lines, because in Malayalam too there is a popular saying, right? ഈ കുഴി കുഴിച്ച് താഴോട്ട് എനിക്ക് പോകാൻ പറ്റിയിരുന്നെങ്കിൽ എന്ന്, ഇവിടെ ഒരു കുഴി കുഴിച്ച് താഴോട്ട് പോകാൻ പറ്റിയിരുന്നെങ്കിൽ എന്നൊക്കെ ആൾക്കാർ പറയാറുണ്ട് when they are caught up in a very bad situation. Similarly, this woman too feels the same, and again that shows her affinity towards hell. My father, he ate me. Then the woman fell down as if she were dead. Again the woman fell down. So this is the second time that the woman is falling down, and she fell down now as if she were dead. My sister Marlene. Oh, said Marlene, I too will go out and see if the bird will give me something. Then she went out. So when it addressed Marlene, Marlene went out. So Marlene felt like the bird might give me some gift, so I might collect it. See here, a woman is fainting. She is there as if she is dead, the stepmother, but no one is looking after her. They are all going outside to get gifts from the bird. Maybe Marlene by now might be fed up with her mother. She might have felt that her mother is truly cruel. That's why she's keeping her distance from her. So Marlene says, I too will go out and see if the bird will give me something. Then she went out, gathered all my bones, tied them in a silken scarf. He threw the shoes down to her. So when Marlene approached, the bird threw the pair of red shoes towards her. So the red shoes here is an indicator of the loss of innocence within Marlene's. So just before her brother's death, Marlene was a truly innocent child. She was a little girl. But when her brother died and when her mother framed her for the death of her brother, she might have felt so sad. That's why she is the only person who is grieving, and she might have felt so sad, and she might have grown out of that grief into a more mature woman. So again, when the bird gives her red shoes, it's an indicator of her loss of innocence and her first steps into adulthood. So baby steps. Usually young girls are given pink colored things, right? Pink colored shoes or light colored shoes, pastel colored shoes and the like. But once you start wearing scarlet, red or the like, then it shows that you are turning slowly to a teenager. Bold colors. So it shows that the person is becoming more and more mature by years. So that again shows the loss of innocence of the child. Okay. So when she received the gift of shoes, Marlene was contented. She was delighted and happy. She put on the new red shoes and danced and leaped into the house. Oh, she said, I was so sad when I went out, and now I am so contented. That is a splendid bird. He has given me a pair of red shoes. So Marlene says to how I was so sad when I sat here, but when I went outside, that beautiful bird gifted me a pair of red shoes, and she felt so happy. No, said the woman, jumping to her feet with her hair standing up like flames of fire. So again the woman was getting agitated, and she began to jump, and her hair started to stand up like flames of fire. Again a reference to fire, again a reference to hell. I feel as if the world were coming to an end. I too will go out and see if it will make me feel better. Because why is she thinking so? Because Marlene was crying so far, and she went outside. She got a brand new pair of red shoes, and she comes back happy. So the woman feels like, oh, I felt so terrible today. I was feeling like the world was coming to an end. So let me go outside. Again, that shows the greed within the woman. She feels that if she goes outside, then she too will get a gift, because she too was feeling so low that day. She too was feeling as the world was coming to an end. and she went out the door. Crash! The bird threw the millstone on her head, and it crushed her to death. So that's the kind of resolution that's happening in this tale. So that's the kind of denouement that's happening in the tale. That is, when the woman went outside, the bird, the last remaining thing the bird had was the millstone which was gifted by the millers. So the bird threw the millstone on her head. So millstone, you know how heavy it is, right? Earlier I had shown you the pictures of millstone. In Tom and Jerry series 2, there will be pictures of millstones and how Tom is trying to kill Jerry using millstones and the like. It is always there. So the bird threw the millstone over the head of the stepmother and crushed her to death. A well-deserving death, it seems. Let's read. So the father and Merlin learned what a wicked woman Merlin's mother is, and so they are pleased when she is killed in an act of retributive justice. So it's like a justice. It's like trying to place the age-old dictum that virtue will be rewarded. So in the olden days, there was this belief that in the end, always virtue wins, or virtue will be rewarded and vice is punished. And in the same note, Grimm's fairy tale 2 comes to an end. Usually the virtue are rewarded and the vices are punished, or the vice is punished. Now, the revelation gives a happy ending to the culture of storytelling. It gives a happy ending. It gives a retributive justice. That is, it's a retribution. The boy gets his revenge, and again, we are happy that the stepmother is dead. But another thing is that this woman was too feminine. She was too powerful. Unlike the first mother, this woman was truly a person who made the home and hearth. She was closely related to the domestic realm. She was closely related to domesticity. വീടുമായിട്ട് റിലേറ്റ് ചെയ്തൊരു woman ആയിരുന്നു. Unlike the first mother, who was closely associated with nature, the second mother was somewhat associated with nurture, because she gave food to everyone, but she was too powerful to be a woman. She was truly a feminine figure. She can be considered as a femme fatale. Please do look up what a femme fatale is. She can be considered as a femme fatale, and again, the father, and it is said that in some interpretations it is said that the father and Marlene knows that the woman has done a horrible crime, but it doesn't feel like that, because nowhere in the story is it mentioned that the father truly hears the tale, right? No one really hears the tale. They just hear the melody. Now, if had the father heard the tale, then he would have questioned the stepmother, but he never does that. So it's highly unlikely that he knows the tale of the bird. But still, so again, the woman is put to death, and it's an act of retributive justice. It's an act of retribution. The boy gets his revenge. The father and Marlene heard it and went out. So the father and Marlene, so all of them they came outside, they came inside. It was going on like that. And father and mother heard the noise, and they went out, and they saw smoke, flames, and fire rising from the place in which the bird stood. So again, that's a very supernatural element. It provides spectacle to the tale. Smoke, fire rising from the place. And when that was over, the little brother was standing there. Remember, when the boy was born, there was some kind of supernatural event that took place. When the boy died too, there was smoke and fire, and the boy was resurrected into the form of a bird. Now again there is smoke and fire. It's again a deus machina, or a divine intervention, whereby it's a supernatural element added to give effect, whereby the bird is transformed into the boy, is miraculously transformed into the boy. So again, the boy is brought back to life, maybe because of his innocence. In earlier days, it was like that, right? Even in the Puranas, you had characters like that who were so innocent that they would be brought back to life. So similar to that, again, the boy is brought back to life. So when the smoke, fire, and flames vanished, the little brother was standing there, and he took his father and Marlene by the hand, and they were all very happy, and they went into the house and sat down at the table and ate. That's how the story comes to an end, right? It's very curious and it's very peculiar. See how it comes to an end? He took his, the little brother was standing there, and he took his father and Marlene by the hand. So the boy was so happy to be reunited with his family. He held them by the hand, and all the three of them were very happy. They went into the house, they sat down at the table and ate. Remember, the dead body of the mother, the stepmother, is right there. But they joined hands, they went happily inside the home, and then they started eating. That's again a very grotesque element in this tale, a very macabre, scary element in this tale, where even if the stepmother is dead, they are all happy to go back, and then they are all happy to go back and eat. Remember, so they went back to the table and they ate. So again, the femme fatale is killed, and the father is least bothered about her death. The tale ends in a feast. It's like a carnivalesque ending. It's like a carnival. Towards the end, everyone is given a feast. They eat their hearts full, and then they are happy about it. No one is mourning the death of the stepmother, maybe because she was a cruel figure. But nowhere is it mentioned that the father really understood what had happened, because the father was so happy to go back with his children and go back to his home and then sit there and eat. It seems as if he is only interested in eating. So let's take a look at what this means, again an analysis. The Canty fable, remember the fable that was there in the beginning that I talked about when talking about the song of the bird? The song of the bird was in verse, and now the tale comes to an end in prose. Ultimately, the bird's ability to voice the barbarous situation of child abuse in his songs restores the literary form as a societal justice. So the bird is finally able to address issues like child abuse, how the child was abused by his own stepmother, and the bird is singing that song, so it restores justice. So in literary sense, there is always this concept of virtue being rewarded and vice being punished, and the same is happening here. Returning home, the bird sings in the garden to get the family's attention. Each family member steps out of the house and receives a gift from the bird, which reflects each person's earlier treatment of the boy. So the boy was the apple in the eye of the father, and that's why the boy gives him a golden chain. And since the father is his biological father, the boy gives him a golden chain. Again, something which is materialistic. Again, the boy was brought up by the father, so it's an apt gift for the father. Halfway through the first refrain, the boy's father comes out to hear the song and is given a gold necklace that the bird had received from the goldsmith. Thereafter, the bird throws Marlene the red shoes from the shoemaker. And finally, when the stepmother runs out to cool down from her fears that she feels, the bird drops a millstone on her head. So again, a fitting gift for the stepmother too, for her cruelty, for her acts of cruelty. And she was crushed to death. After her death, the focus shifts from the family's reaction to that of the bird to the restoration of harmony that the stepmother had nearly dissolved through her greed. So when the mother is died, then there is no focus on to the mother. The mother is no longer the center of attraction. It is the focus shifts to the family's reaction towards her death, to the reaction to the bird's restoration. More than her death, they are happy and jubilant about the bird being restored back to the boy. They are happy that the boy has come back to life, and that there is a restoration of harmony which was destroyed by the stepmother. The harmonious situation at home was destroyed by the stepmother, and the harmony is restored by the resurrection of the child. And the child is resurrected. When the child is brought back to life, the harmony is restored. Her death reverses the harm she had caused, and the boy is reborn. The tale's happy end is dramatic. It has the element of a spectacle, smoke, flames, and fire. were coming from the sport when it was over, and the little brother was standing there. The boy returns to life and to his family. They join hands and enter the house to eat dinner, and they are no longer controlled by the stepmother. So they are no longer controlled by the authoritarian figure that was there in their home, which was the stepmother, who was in control of the home and hearth. So just think about it. Can the retribution be considered as something which is balanced? If everyone goes by the Hammurabi code of law, eye for an eye, then will it be balanced? Will it create a balanced society? And what wrong did the woman do? She was feeling so insecure right from the beginning, right? Had the father had chosen the girl over the son, then she might not have felt so insecure. She might have felt that since the son is the firstborn male child, he would be the heir to the house. But if the father had given due respect to her and her daughter and the second child, then she might not have felt so insecure. But then again, there are references which shows that the woman might have been a reincarnation of Satan himself, because in many instances the woman is referred to as being controlled by an external force. It is as if someone is making her do it. Someone is making her kill the son. So there is a supernatural element to it too, which portrays her as a demonic kind of a figure possessed by the devil. So that is also there. So in one way her actions can be justified, but then again, who are we to decide who is right and who is wrong? And I don't think that the death as such and the cold indifference that everyone shows towards her death can be fully justified in any sense. Okay, I have shared my thoughts with you. Now you might share your thoughts with me on the matter. With that, we come to an end to today's lecture. Thank you for listening.